Hi grade 4, it's Miss Whitmore here with lesson 3 of fractions. So we're just going to start today off looking at what we covered last week. So last week was kind of a big week with what we were learning in math. So vocabulary wise, we learned what a numerator and what a denominator is. That's these two guys here. So the numerator is the top number. That's when we're talking about the number of parts we have or that we're trying to talk about. So in the case of most of my examples, I was talking about the shaded parts. So in this fraction, we would show 2 shaded parts out of a total of 5 parts. And that total number of parts that we're talking about is the denominator. We also talked about the value of fractions, so the amount fractions are worth based on their pieces. And we also talked about the importance of these parts of fractions being equally sized, meaning we don't want to talk about fractions as well. If we cut this up all mishmashed, every piece is going to be a different size, and we can't just say that that one piece is 1 out of 10 pieces when all 10 pieces are different sizes. So today is actually a very short lesson. So we're going to be learning what are whole fractions. This is not something that's very hard to learn, but is definitely worth mentioning. I also want to say that you would have probably gotten your marks back on your quizzes, and I want you to think about what does that quiz mark mean for you. So if you got a mark that was maybe a 2 out of 4, or a mark where there's still some room for improvement, then what can you do to make that improvement? Maybe that means you go back and you look at one of those videos and say, what's that part that confused me on the question? What can I do to make sure I know it for next time? Because those questions, or ones that are very similar, are probably going to come up again. So please just keep that in mind. So what are whole fractions? I'm not just going to tell you what it is. I want you to think about it. So I want you to use the picture that I show on the screen here. One of these is a whole fraction. I want you to think about which one you think it is and why. So if your guess was the second one here, why do you think the second one is a whole fraction? What is telling you that that is a whole fraction? So pause the video here if you can, please. Make that thought and then keep playing it to see if you were right or not. So whole fractions, the answer is 1. So 1 is a whole fraction because we're including the whole pie or the whole cake or the whole chocolate bar or really anything. If we see how the entire shape is colored in, it's because I'm talking about the entire shape. All right, so that's a whole fraction. And in reality, every time we write out a number, there's actually a secret one underneath. Okay, you don't see it because it doesn't have much value to anything unless we're actually using fractions. But yeah, there's actually a secret one under all numbers, which is kind of a cool fact to know. So now that you know what a whole fraction is, which is this guy here, because we're talking about the whole thing, what is not a whole fraction? So let's look at these guys. What is different about these fractions from this one that makes these different and not whole fractions? Okay, so non-whole fractions, we're just calling them fractions. You wouldn't really say a non-whole fraction, is when we're talking about pieces or parts of a whole. So as you can see here, whether we're talking about the white parts or the yellow parts, regardless, we're talking about parts of a whole. We're not talking about the entire thing. In this case, it would be half or 1 out of 2 pieces for both the white or the yellow. In this case, it would be 1 out of 4 pieces for the yellow and 3 out of 4 pieces for the white. And 3 out of 4 pieces are yellow in this one, and 1 out of 4 pieces are white in this one. So in these cases, we're never talking about the entire thing. We're always talking about parts of the whole, this being the whole. All right, so this is all I have for lesson 3. Lesson 4 is going to be a different video. I didn't want to stress you guys out too much with a bunch of information all at once in one video. What you do have after this lesson is a quiz that I've posted. You should be able to do it with or without even having watched this video because it's just a general fractions quiz. So please do that before you go on to the next lesson. Thank you so much, grade 4. Bye.